Whenever you're going into a cutting phase, obviously it's in your best interest to keep your metabolism as high as possible. Today, I want to cover some strategies you can take to make sure you do that, and the first one, getting right into things, is controlling the pace of weight loss. Probably not the number one thing you wanted to hear, but unfortunately, if you lose weight too fast, it's definitely going to hurt your metabolism. The reason this happens is because of your body's self-defense mechanism it has against starvation. You have to understand, your body doesn't really care about how good you look in a bathing suit or whether you have a six-pack. It cares about one thing, and that's making sure you survive. So when you diet, especially when you do so aggressively, your body's going to go through a lot of changes. It's going to do things like alter your hormones, things like thyroid and leptin and ghrelin and testosterone. It causes you to burn less calories through things like your basal metabolic rate, your thermic effect of exercise, and basically everything. And the reason it's doing this is to make sure that you're more efficient at holding on to the calories you give it. This way, if you were to go through longer periods of time without a food supply, you'd be able to last longer. Whereas if your body just kept using fat for fuel and there was no food around, you'd quickly starve to death. Obviously, this is much less of an issue nowadays than it was thousands of years ago, but that doesn't mean our physiology has changed. It's also important when we go into a dieting phase that we're trying to lose body fat and not just weight. Remember that when you go into a dieting phase and you lose weight, weight accounts for everything you lose, not just body fat. So if you aggressively diet, you're gonna lose more muscle, which not only hurts your body composition, but it also hurts your metabolism even more. So while it's fun to see the scale drop quickly, remember, especially in the very early stages, a lot of that is just water weight through loss of glycogen and the water accompanied with that, but also there's a lot of negative consequences for going too fast. But it's not just about the short term either. Unfortunately, extremely low calories, especially done for a prolonged period of time, can have negative impacts, possibly even years down the road on your metabolism. Take, for instance, this study that looked at people who did either gastric bypass or some Biggest Loser contestants. Both actually lost similar amounts of weight, but the Biggest Loser contestants lost much less lean body mass. Either way, both groups had significantly lower resting metabolic rates than would be predicted by the amount of weight that they lost. And in a similar study that was a follow-up on Biggest Loser contestants, I believe it was 14 different contestants, that they tracked 6 years after the show was done. And of course, not surprisingly, most of them had gained a significant amount of the weight back, but the more shocking detail was their average resting metabolic rate was about 500 calories less than would be predicted by the amount they weigh. And again, this was 6 years after they were done with that aggressive dieting. So obviously not a good thing. And even just for the very start of a cut, if you go too aggressive too fast, you're setting yourself up to fail because your metabolism is gonna adapt. This is what your body's supposed to do. It's just doing its job. So when you see these weight loss plateaus, you don't wanna get too upset about it. It's gonna happen. You just need to learn how to make some adjustments. And I have plenty of videos on how to do that. But the point is, if you get crazy aggressive right off the bat and you're barely eating anything, once your body adapts to this, now what are you gonna do? You're already barely eating. You can't really reduce your calories anymore. You probably already feel horrible. And then you're left with feeling, well, now what do I do? And most of the time it probably just turns into quitting, going back to your old habits with a slower metabolism and gaining the weight back quickly. So while yes, you'll see faster results in the beginning stages by losing weight quickly like this, you're gonna lose less weight in the long run because you're just gonna get stuck and have nothing to do. Whereas if you take the slower, more sustainable approach, you'll be able to make adjustments as you hit these plateaus and keep the process working better for longer. And not only is it better results wise, but it's also gonna be less painful of a process. You're gonna be able to eat more food. You're gonna be able to do less exercise. You're gonna perform better. You're gonna be less hungry, and overall gonna feel much better if you're not starving yourself. So moral of the story is, faster isn't always better. And if you've always rushed the process, it's time to slow down and think big picture. And how fast should you lose weight? I typically recommend losing no more than about 1% of your weight on average per week. So if you were 200 pounds, you don't want to lose more than about 2 pounds. If you're very obese and have a long ways to go, you can lose a little bit faster, maybe up to about 2%, but use caution, especially if you have a long history of dieting and your body's already been fighting you, then it's going to get pretty difficult to do that. Now, besides just pace of weight loss, there's some strategies we can take to keep your metabolism in a better place when cutting, and that's utilize things like refeeds and diet breaks to keep your body in a better place. So if you don't know what these are, they're basically a period of time where you bring your calories up to around maintenance or so, and what this does is it allows to kind of bring your metabolism back up a little bit, keep your hormones in a little bit better place, and what it essentially does is give your body a reason to let its guard down a little bit and stop protecting against fat loss so much. So if it thinks you have more calories to work with and it's not in this constant state of lower calories, oftentimes when you come back from them, the process works better, and it can sometimes allow you to eat more throughout the process as well, not to mention the mental benefits of being able to break up your diet so that you can enjoy more food for a while and not feel like you have to be so rigid all the time. Now, if you don't know how to do these or much about them, I have a video for each one that I'll put in the description that you can watch. But the essential difference is refeeds are very short periods of time, usually 1 or 2, maybe 3 days, whereas a diet break is usually a week or 2 or possibly even longer. And they're not mutually exclusive either. You can use both. I often will do double refeeds during the week, and then occasionally maybe every 4 to 6 weeks or so do diet breaks as well. And with regards to the refeeds, you really want to, if possible, do at least back-to-back days of the refeeds, as doing consecutive days has been shown by some research to have some potential benefits for keeping your hormones and metabolism in a better place, as well as reducing losses of lean body mass, whereas single-day refeeds don't seem to have the same benefit. They'll still do things like replenish glycogen and have mental benefits, but if at all possible, the double refeeds tend to do better. So please don't look at a diet break as some sort of setback. They could be the very thing that's been missing from your diet that's causing you to get stuck and have nowhere to go. Another strategy you can take is make sure you're eating a high protein diet. I usually recommend around 1 gram per pound of body weight, or perhaps if you have a long ways to go, do more of a goal weight. And protein just has such a high thermic effect of food, and it has so many benefits, and it's become very clear when you eat more protein, you're able to eat more calories and either get the same benefit or even potentially get better results than on a lower protein diet, even on slightly lower calories. You also want to make sure you're controlling things like sleep and stress. These are 2 of the most underrated aspects, really, as a fitness lifestyle as a whole. The differences between having a high stress, low sleep and a high sleep, low stress life can be huge. And there's even some research that's shown people who got much less sleep, while they may have lost roughly the same amount of weight, they actually lost a lot more lean body mass and a lot less fat from that weight. And low sleep, especially combined with higher stress, can bring your cortisol through the roof. This has a lot of negative implications on the body and can also have sort of a fat loss blunting effect. And then please do not ignore strength training. If you haven't been doing it, adding this in will help significantly. Having more muscle, as I've already mentioned, helps with metabolism. It has a tremendous benefit for body composition. And no, ladies, it's not gonna make you bulky. It's gonna help you get you where you wanna be. It helps so much with fat loss. The benefits of strength training are actually significantly better than cardio, but it seems like everyone's always steering towards cardio and then ignoring strength training, or saying, I wanna lose the weight first and then I'll build muscle, which is completely backwards. Do that now to help you with the fat loss and reap the rewards of what it does for your metabolism as well. And lastly, there's some truths about weight loss that nobody's really telling you and people have a very hard time accepting. And I have 10 truths that I want to make sure you're aware of and will accept. So make sure you check that out in the top video next. Otherwise, I think you'll like this bottom video instead. And I'll see you in one of those other videos.